So for the K009 Bullpup concept, I'm going to do a final assembly on camera so you see exactly what's going on for putting this thing together. And the things you just need to know is for external parts that are not 3D printed, I highly recommend going with this Speed brand HPA adjustable trigger. You've got this Angel Custom from Evike, their house brand, an ambidextrous mag release. In my case, I have a Heritage Edition, but just any Wolverine Inferno engine. I am currently using the one with the one out of my SR25. So I've got the premium fire control unit and the black leaf trigger board. I'm a fan of these because they have the supported switch, which also has a nice click to it. Oh, and we need a safety lever for, particularly with the MTW engine, you have to be able to press down on this safety switch while safety is off for it to fire. This has to be pushed down. In the case of the Backdraft Phoenix engine, you have to press this switch in order to be safe. So it's not the end of the world if the safety lever is not in there for the Backdraft engine. Just means you'll never be able to actually put it in safe mode, which for programming can be a pain. In this case, I'm programming with a premium board, so if this is a little funny, not the end of the world, as long as it can fire. First things first, trigger board, a little dab of super glue, as well as your fine thread screw from the original mounting. You're not really going to be able to put a fine thread in 3D printing, so might as well just stick with getting it somewhat tight and have super glue do the rest of the job. So make sure you're really confident that you got a good print off before officially putting it together and gluing it in place. Maybe just screw it in place just tight enough to do a test fit, and then glue it whenever you know you're confident that this is the build you want to do. So what we have is an assortment of M3 hardware. We have 3 that are 30 mil long, and then we have 22 that are 16 mil long. I know, weird size, but it's how everything measured up. And again, M3 nuts, pretty skinny suckers. I got these all off of McMaster, so I could put those in the description so you can source those if you wish. But again, any M3 hardware, I recommend stainless for being outdoors. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to add all these nuts into the press fit locations all over this thing. So you got 4 in each flange, and then an assortment across the shells. So I'm going to skip ahead on that, just so I'll kind of show you where they all go at after the time cut. You don't need to see how long this takes to press all of them in. Okay, real quick, something I neglected to mention previously. For every screw hole, I highly recommend, since 3D printing leaves flat spots, take an 1/8 inch drill bit and clean them out so that you don't have difficulty assembling it later. The only place that I do not drill is the connection up front between the front rail and our tips, which, by the way, I do have for you a long 4-chamber tip, a 2-chamber, no chamber, and I did make a version that is based off the Strike Industries oppressor muzzle that allows for a Bifrost M tracer. So all 4 of those will be in the final file. The only sneaky nut you have to watch for is the one in here. This holds the selector plate as well as the selector plate brace, which just keeps it from flexing since we only have a single mounting point. And then, yeah, nuts in the flanges, nuts across the shells, and 2 nuts on the backside of the grip. If it helps, thread a nut onto a screw like these. Just get like 3 threads, and then you can push it in wherever you need to. My one comment I'll have before we start assembling is know that this is not solid print. I assume you didn't. That'd be a lot of material. And because it's not solid, it's only a few walls, you can easily over torque the fasteners into the nuts to the point that the nut can rip the walls around it, and then your fastener is trapped inside of the counterbore for the nut. And then you have to literally cut your plastic to get your shells apart. Okay, not sure why GoPro keeps deciding to stop recording. It's just being temperamental lately. They all seem to be like that. Anyway, so to get started, we're going to be at the engine in the back, which with the Bullpup and the Wolverine Inferno harness, you don't need the extra long, like 18 and such inch harnesses. What you have to do is you have to take the two signal wires to the solenoid and do I believe it's a 9 or a 10-inch extension. Yeah, 10-inch extension. That way it can reach all the way from the rear engine to the new trigger location. Now I have a long stock and a short stock. The short stock is for printers like mine, the Bamboo A1. We have limited print height versus some of the big boy H series printers by Bamboo. Those can do the long stocks. Now with loading up this shell, notice that we have a high spot on the flange. Oh, forgot to put the nuts in there. Gotta do those. But we want to make sure that that is hanging off the edge of a table. That way we can apply somewhat even pressure when mounting. If you have it up on the flange, you could actually bend and snap the layer layer slices, if you will. Okay, so you have your engine. It's got its nice soldered extensions. Now make sure whenever you print this, you get all the supports out of the groove for the engine. This is the key thing about this prototype, is that, oop, I almost broke my own rule. Flange over the edge. We're going to push it into the notch. It'll be a snug fit. The whole point of the prototype, as I was saying, is the distance. The nozzle extends from the front of the, call it the shell, the gearbox shell location. That way the distance from here to where the bucking stops inside of the Hopup chamber when you're inserting it, that shoulder of the bucking, that distance from there to here is what I measured on a whole bunch of Hopup chambers. And I set this prototype for that distance to be right at 5/8, 625. Now with the Silent Industries, that distance is actually 650, and I have seen other Hopup chambers go down to around 615. So we're like right in the middle. So that would be compatible with the most amount of Hopup chambers. The thing that I can't adjust for everything without you buying a super fancy, again, a Silent Alpha or the Bugatti Neptune Hopup chambers, these have adjustable feed tube heights to accommodate magazine heights. Because in this case, I have this designed for a G&G Competition 100. And then the PTS EPM ones, they're too low. So you'll have to lift with your hand in order for the feed tube to engage, unless you take my mag release switch and manually raise it to force the mag higher. So rather than do that, if you really want to use a magazine that is not currently compatible, get yourself a Hopup chamber with an adjustable feed tube, and then you can set it exactly what and any mag will work. So just getting that detail out of the way. Okay, so that explanation out of the way. So I set this up so that you install the engine and the Hopup chamber together, all one unit. And then the spring for the Hopup chamber, you may need to add spacers, O-rings, etc. in order to press it back. But it's relatively snug as is, as designed. And then we need the wire for the Bullpup signal going around the Hopup chamber into the little cubby it's got. The hose coming out the bottom hole here. This access hole at the back is for Backdraft Phoenix engines. They have an adjustable, I believe it's the dwell, that we want to have an Allen going through the back to adjust. Okay. So, and the reason I have it split into multiple shells is for ease of assembly. I don't like with gearboxes how many things you have to hold in place while you're putting it together. So I like only having to control a limited number of objects. In this case, I have a hose, I have the wires, and I have the Hopup chamber because of the weight of the barrel trying to peel it out. Now that I've got it pre-placed, I make sure I don't have anything pinched, not the air hose. So from here, we can start taking our M3 screws, and I'm not going to full torque these M3s yet. Reason being is since this is 3D printed, and I didn't include any dowel pins in this design, what I'm using for aligning the entire thing front to back is these flanges that do print very, very flat from print to print. So because of that, I use that to align everything and not these central threads. Okay, that nut fell out. Probably this guy. I've noticed that whenever I go to the real fine layer heights, that's when the nuts stop press fitting so well. They get a little too loose. I originally came up with the design back when I just had a Ender S3. I think that's what you call it. No, Ender 3 SE, I think it was. Either way, it was a Ender that did not have the finest print quality. Everything was nice and rough, so I had to loosen everything in order to fit. In this case, this Bamboo A1, it's so smooth with its print finish. And I don't even have to adjust any settings. It just does it. So, I gotta thank Fish and my pops for hooking me up with that for Christmas this year, because they saw that I had mostly given up on 3D printing. So they're like, no. You gotta finish what you started. So, here we are, finishing what we started. Okay. Want to skip a few? I've got the fasteners all roughly installed. Again, not tightened. Because I want to have the entire front to back done, tighten the flanges, and then do the shells last. That's the big thing. And like I said, I got this super glue done ahead of time so that we don't have to wait too long here. So most of this central section for the Bullpup design is going to be hollow. It was just for the ease of modeling and keeping everything continuous. So I'm plugging my trigger board. Got my wires coming out down the massive battery compartment of the grip. I might have overdone it on the grip, but I've got small hands. Maybe some of y'all have bigger hands that fit it a little better. Anywho. So with this, oh, actually, take that back. Back up. So what we want to do is we want to get the fire selector set up before we close the shells. And I don't have a strong saying as far as what selector springs are going to work best in this setup just yet. Doesn't help that I've only ever really bought GMPs, so those are the 5 safety levers that I have. This is what it is. This little spring guide down. So again, whenever an MTW is in semi or auto, this lever is not being pushed, so it should spring down and push the brown switch in order to allow you to fire. If that switch is not being pushed, your MTW will, sorry, not MTW, your Wolverine Inferno will not fire. Wolverine. I don't know how many times I said MTW, but I'm going to have to correct that. Anyway. And then to screw into this, I have this kind of counterbore notch right here. So that's after we've already assembled it together. And to kind of help hold stuff in. So what we have is place the fire selector in place. This brace has a foot to go in front of the selector. Oh, what am I doing? Wrong colors. There we go. Gamble blue. Yeah, don't ask me why I pick my color combos. I do what I do. I'm a heretic. More so now that I'm in this I'm 3D printing and HPA. This like goes against most of everything I ever began on. I'll probably Loctite that later. Tighten that a little more. Whoop, too much. You might have to just go auto to semi. Whatever. It works. I swear. Maybe improvements in the future. Okay. All that shenanigans aside. So we got our selector set up. So this boss here is going to push against the Hopup Chamber spring and any spacers that you have to get that compression right. So you should feel that springing together as you assemble this. If not, then you missed a step. There's not really anything in here to deal with. You got the wires, you got your board, safety lever, and then again, I recommend this Speed HPA adjustable trigger because it's got this spring at the back rather than a torsion. Now, I think I have it set up to a torsion spring will work too. Okay, before I was rudely interrupted by another GoPro battery overheating. I think it must be shot. I must have... Whenever you have battery packs on the back of your helmet, forcing it to recharge, I think it ruins their regulators and they just burn up. Anyway, so yeah, Speed brand, HPA trigger. You can adjust the dead space on the front of the pole, back of the pole, to get the perfect amount to pull the trigger switch, rather than having to do an excessive amount of sloppiness from a default trigger. So I highly recommend these. So we're going to get it roughly in place. Make sure we're not pinching anybody. Nice and easy like. And then we're going to, again, just gently clamp these shells, particularly the center section. There's definitely a multi-step for this bit. Particularly because I don't want it to be too tight on these wires. Because I need them to I need the wires to slip into the center shell. So it doesn't bind up too much and possibly break a wire or going around the hop-up. That's got a nut. Good. I'll just save you for later. So again, the idea is to make sure that the wires are not getting too bound up. So I'm just gently compressing against the spring of the Hopup chamber. I'm going to start by just getting the screw started. And then we'll aim for a final torque at the very, very end of the whole assembly. Okay, so that was the hardest part of the assembly. Now really the easier part is the front rail. You really have to make sure you get all of your 3D print support material removed from between the flanges for the threads to grab. So I had to do some cleanup and get everything bolted back together. Anyway, I'm back. So for mounting the tip, we have one nut pressed in at the back. And again, we don't drill out this because we want it tight. And this is my quick attach system. It's going to use one of the longer 30 mils. And this one's going to be tight all the way in just because it's going to kind of pull itself through. And it's also why I didn't do the entire build with this design, because This being tight at the bottom pulls the tip slightly down, just a smidge. You'll hardly notice, but it at least allows us to remove the tips, hot swap them, depending on what you need. Do you want the full long boy? Do you want the shorty? Do you want the tracer? Or recharge the tracer for that matter. There you go. Okay, so we've got the tip mounted. I have this flange at full tight, because again, I want the flanges to do the alignment of the rest of the shells. So I got that flange. I'm going to go to this flange. Okay, that's all the flanges. We'll check alignment. Again, 3D printing is not going to be perfect, but that's good as it is. I'll do the job. And now we're going to do the remaining shell screws, with the exception of the grip. We'll save that. Thankfully, since this is HPA, you only got to disassemble it once every year. Lube up the O-rings. It's not like a gearbox that could explode at any moment. So we have our trade-offs. Remember, don't over-torque this, or else that nut will rip the walls and get stuck in there. So don't do that. Next, got our mag release. You may need to clean up the print area inside of here. Oh, sure enough, mine's got some junk in there. Okay, I'm back. Yeah, it's a common thing I gotta clean up there. Sport tree goes right up into there. So, with that, get ourselves a couple mag checks, make sure everything printed right. So I designed it for this G&G 100s. That clicked in. Press release, cool. How about a GMP Skull Frog? Ooh, that's a tight boy. Very, very tight. She in though. Woo! Okay. Oh boy! I'm sorry, fellas. Yeah, okay. GMP is tight. How about this cheaper G&G Combat Machine Specials? Okay, that's definitely a no. Okay. And then, again, I said the PTS will go in, but it's extremely loose. I'd have to adjust the feed tube to push down harder on it. And how about an MTW mag, also made by PTS? Okay, doesn't click in. So that one has to go even higher to click. Like I said, it's real goofy trying to figure out what will go in. Yep, okay. So, I highly recommend stick with these G&G Competition 100s, because it's technically what I designed it for. They click right in, and I use them in every other build I've ever used so far, because I don't like mid-cap syndrome. I want reliable, I want always to shoot, even if it means they don't carry as many BBs. And double check, can I get this safety lever screw in place? We can indeed. Cool. That's the whole shebang. So from there, start tuning your dwell, your fire rate. In case of the Phoenix engine, your nozzle timer. There you have it. Like I said, you can quick swap. You got shorty, 2-chamber, 4-chamber, tracer. Oh boy. Needless to say, I'm excited to try this out on the field. That'll be a couple months though. Have a good one.